as always. And now I have the privilege to introduce you, Sara Anjos. It's very hard when you have to introduce a person that is your personal friend, you consider your personal friend. And I'm really delighted to introduce Sara. I've had the privilege of working with her in Núcleo. We collaborated in a few projects. She used to work directly and is still a member of Núcleo. And she's doing very impressive research on the impact of informal education. Sara is an astronomer. She has a master in business, I think, and is now doing her PhD mixed in Leiden and Braga on the impact of science communication and informal science education. So I could spend hours, actually, seeing Sara. It's a long time that we are not together. We could just continue talking.
That's true.
No, you have to give a talk. Sara, welcome on board. And I give you the floor. I will let you know when you have 3 minutes left, okay?
Okay, thank you so much, Rosa. You are very kind. Hello, everyone from sunny Portugal. I wish to do this. Let me see if this is working. I guess so. I guess we can all see this.
Yes,
this
images. Yeah, perfect. Perfect.
Okay, okay. So I am talking from Porto in the north of the country. It's famous by its port wine. Also find here Lelo bookstore, one of the oldest bookstores in Portugal and frequently rated among the top bookstores in the world. Many say direct inspiration for J.K. Rowling and her Harry Potter books. First of all, I want to thank to the organizing committee. I want to congratulate the organizing committee for setting up this amazing conference. I have seen fantastic sessions. I have learned a lot. And it is very exciting for me to be here, and I thank to the colleagues in the session, all the participants for taking their time to listen to this presentation. I will talk about the media, how it influences, the youth relationship with science. A study that was made, I will present today a study that was made last year and published this year. As Rosa said, it is part of my PhD on science communication and youth engagement with astronomy. That is a collaboration between the University of Minho, the University of Leiden, the Netherlands, and has a lot of influence of Núcleo, of course. And I want to start by saying that STEM, like some of you already said here in this conference, that STEM related and especially astronomy and space are a growing industry in most countries around the world, with an increasing number of career opportunities for young people. So we need to guide young people into this type of profession, which will bring them several advantages as we think. However, teaching space science and to teenagers and being able to link that to career opportunities is not easy. And in Portugal, you find astronomy and space content mainly in the primary level and also in the 7th grade. After that, you have little to no content of astronomy and space in the formal curriculum. Of course, we have a lot of amazing teachers like Álvaro and Maria. They are doing an amazing job, but they are not the rule, they are the exception. We need to look not only at the curriculum, but also we need to see where people can actually find astronomy. Is there not only in the formal curriculum? Certainly not. They can find astronomy, and we all agree that science is everywhere, that learning science may occur in various contexts of daily life. It is in our daily lives, it's in our house, in our hobbies, time, in our hands. So it is also for sure in the media. And when kids come to science classes, to science centers, when they come to us, they already have some conceptions about science, about space, about astronomy, because particularly astronomy, health, technology are very present subjects in the media. So in this presentation, I would like to focus on the role of the relationship between science, youth, and the media, because it is naive to think that kids only have access or contact to science at school. So informal and non-formal learning of science occurs in several contexts of the daily and routine life. And we like to make this question, how media, what young people hear and consume of science in the media, how this influence their representations of science and eventually decision-making, careers and opinions about science. We have heard a lot about gender balance. We have heard a lot about some social economical difficulties of science capital that does not reach to everybody. So media can be a great channel to communicate science, and we should be attentive to what media is doing and what images, symbols, and what messages media is crossing, it's passing about science. So how this affects science learning at school? Should we also ignore that knowledge and skills of youngers develop in informal and non-formal contexts? Should we ignore it? Should we bring that to school, to classes? Let's hear what young people have to say about that. We conducted a study, like I said, with 40 young individuals who were interested in space science and in astronomy, and they have interesting things to say. But first of all, I will share with you some of what literature is saying about this, about the media. So the role of the media, media is a primary source of information related to scientific issues. This is something that it's widely acknowledged in research. Media also plays an important role shaping young people's cultural identity. So what are the implications brought along for shaping opinions and making decisions relating to science, and particularly to astronomy? We should think a little bit about that. So for young people, learning has a lot of presence of the media, because they live in the media. Like I will say afterwards, they are constantly connected to the internet. So they are always looking for information, and sometimes they cross, like we are going to say later on, they cross with science information. So it makes sense to look at for the connections between the contribution of the media to the construction of their scientific literacy, because the media influence in building and critical science literacy and forming aspects of the identity that are related to subjects of science that is not being quietly explored. We for sure have noticed that in the media we find more males, that we find a construction of science, but we are telling our students how to look at that critically. So at this point, I think it's important to tell you what I consider a critical scientific literacy, a critical scientific literacy. I'm hearing that, are you listening to me? Because I heard that my internet connection is weak. I hope
Sara,
you are
hear you. We can
okay. Okay, thank you. So what we think, or what we conceive as critical science literacy, is that the construction of scientific literacy implies not only the knowledge of facts, a methodology, application of science, but also implies calling out different contexts of learning and different ways of thinking and acting regarding science. Looking at it on a critical way also comprises the capacity to understand motivation, values, symbols, and power relations and scientific discourse in its multiple modes. because we have seen that the context of production, the social interactions of science has a lot of implications. We have seen that science is not only about facts, and this pandemic has shown that a lot, that science is not only about facts, about methodologies, but it has a lot of social implications. And we also need to teach our students how critically analyze that implications of science. So in the informal learning, the means, the tools, the digital networks that the students are leading with, they lead to different forms of learning and skills acquisition. They found in the media, they find symbolic resources, and they use those symbolic resources to express, to decipher, or their own identities and those of others. That means that then when they are seeing images of science in textbooks, in books, in the media, in movies, in the internet, in a website, they are deciphering, they are acquiring symbols, they are acquiring messages about science. And we need to teach students how they can look at that because it's neutral. So media normally has an intention. So we need to make a connection, and try to do that, to make a connection about how media literacy may be may be used to build a critical science literacy. So a critical perspective, we say, that is needed to assess the context in which science are created. This is quite important for science, because although we all advocate that science is for all, the true science has not been for all these years. Women are apart from science, less privileged groups are apart from science, race and ethnic groups are apart from science. So we need to look at this quite seriously to see where these discourses about science are being made, how are they being made, okay? So we need to question the role of school to prepare students for debates related to science topics in the media, as well in other contexts of daily lives, and give them the ability to critically analyze scientific information conveyed by the media. So we need also to consider that individuals, they are active social users. They are always rebuilding meanings related to science. We need to be aware of young people's habits of consumption of scientific information. That's why we ask them where do they consume science information, how they consume science information, the influence that this consumption, because it's not only at school, but also in very non-formal and informal contexts, the influence that this consumption may have on development of scientific literacy, when to know that, and also the need to critically analyze scientific information. So understanding the facts and scientific knowledge in the news, it's very important, but also the ways in which their constructs and actors are represented. Media literacy, some of you may know, others may not know, but media literacy is the ability to assess, understand, and create communications in different contexts. So it's not only to be a consumer, but it's also about understanding and creating communications. So if we are preparing students to be future scientists, and some of them may be future scientists, all of them will be future, they are already citizens, but some of them will be future scientists. So we need to be aware that they, in their role, if they will use and create communication, and they will use media, and so they need to be prepared also to to take media into account when the context is science subjects. Okay, so what did we did? We talked to young people about science. We want to know their representations and aspirations, the platforms they use, react when they are facing science information, if they share that information with family, friends, at school, in the media, how do they seek information, and how do they handle that information. So next was the Submarine Project. The Submarine Project is an activity that is developed by the University of Porto to younger students. This we talked and we made several surveys and online questionnaires. We have also group discussions, focus groups, and participant observation using the field diary. And we want to know what are the motivations to be in that action. We want to know which platforms and means they use to assess astronomy information. We wanted to know attitudes and behaviors regarding interaction and dialogue about astronomy issues also. Our search focus...
You have 2 more minutes. You have 2 more minutes.
Oh, okay. In that case, I'm going to jump to the conclusions. So, motivations, representations, and professional aspirations. We found that half of the participants were interested in astronomy. We found there were no gender differences in the group, but when we talked to them, they only spoke about men in astronomy. They spoke about Stephen Hawking, about Michio Kaku, about Neil deGrasse Tyson, and one of the students said that there are male astronomers than women. There are more male astronomers than women, but it has more to do with the fact that the informal education that women receive is a bit different than of the men. They recognize that stereotypes are present in society. They think that astronomers are closed, antisocial person who is focused on calculations, and they don't have much ability to talk to people. But they say that these conceptions are more for older people, not for them. They think that they don't have these stereotypes. One of the motivations to go to this action is to talk to someone about the subject of astronomy, because they think that school don't teach them what they really need to know about scientific articles, how to read scientific articles, how to interpret science information. They feel they need to improve the vocabulary that is used in science communication, and they think that school is not preparing them to that. To media consumption, rarely seek or assess science information. They favor a search engine like Google, when they want to know more about. They never or hardly ever share or comment on scientific information, and they all use social networks and YouTube channels to find content about science. And when I ask them this statement that most young users get the news on their mobile devices as a result of being on platforms like Facebook or Twitter, they come across the news rather than looking for it. They do this as part of living in the media rather than using the media. I ask them if they think that this is a right conclusion of these researchers. They say yes, they don't look for information. They kind of step on it when they use social media. So I asked them where this interest for astronomy came up. They said it came up from school, but also from books. They talk about books about Stephen Hawking, Neil deGrasse. They talk about watching series like Cosmos. They'll talk about following the ESA and ESO institutions in Instagram. So they to conclude, they were very critical of school that does not promote them their interest in astronomy. If the astronomy is not in the school curriculum, then it's for sure that we can find that media or informal science education is playing an important role in keeping fuel this interesting that they have in science. One of the things that I want to conclude, this is my last slide.
Yes, Sara, you're over your time already.
Okay, so school needs to prepare future citizens. Some of them will be scientists, so we need to be aware of that. So we need to teach students to read science news, image symbols in the media, and the informal context of daily life. We need to teach about the constraints of the social, economic, and financial process in which science is made. And we need to help students envision themselves as future scientists by engaging in a dialogic relationship and in a democratic participation of science. So we need to develop skills not only as consumers of the media, but also as potential content producers. Could be an opportunity to work on critical literacies for science and the media in convergence. So this is some of the conclusions of the study. Well, I had a lot more to say, but maybe another time.
So
Thank you so much.
That is telling us that there is a lot to be done, and that this was just a short introduction, was just a trailer of the work that has to be done. And I see that
for sure,
stakeholders represented here have a mission on that. So we will certainly contact you again, Sara, to do something more in-depth and in support of all the educators and science communicators, because in the end, as I said already during this week several times, teachers are the most important science communicator. Thank you very much. I'm afraid I cannot give time for question and answer, but Sara will be attempted to the chat. If there is any question, please feel free to use the Q&A chat to put the question. Thank you very much, Sara.